Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wigan Fan TV. Joining me this evening, Mr. Stuart Minnis and Mark Illingworth. Mark is battling tonight to be with us. He's got you're high on Lemsip at the minute, are you?
To be honest, I think I'm probably the best I've felt since this time last week. So I'm
bird flu. It's got bird flu.
I think I caught the flu on the Western Terrace during that Leeds versus Hull FC game, and I've not recovered.
It serves you right for going watching Leeds. It's what you get.
Well, I went watching Toronto against Cass. I was doing a bit of a recce on our upcoming opponents. You say.
I'll give you that one, laddie. I'll give you that one.
So excuse Mark if he coughs his way through. We've just got a bit of coronavirus on the show, but it's topical at least. It's topical, so thank you for bringing coronavirus to the show. Now, there's one person who I know, Mark, you know he's desperate to watch this show this evening, and that's Rob. Rob Ordish.
We're not bringing him in.
Yeah, no, I can't face it. Let's get his comment on there. There we go. Evening losers.
From him all week. Don't you worry about that.
We've got to take it as much as we can give it. I didn't see the defeat coming last week, but it happened. 16-12 to Castleford. Stu, your thoughts on that performance from Wigan?
From what I can gather on the radio, our old penalty monster come back to bite us on the backside, didn't it? That was the difference, what I can see. But as you say, we move on. You know, let's not twine. Let's give it to Rob. You know, well done, Rob, and his Castleford Pussycats. I'll call it the Tigers. You know what I mean? But no, you know, we move on and we go again. We all like to whinge about it, but no, there you go.
I am curious to know, Rob, while you're watching, if you've released your DVD, your commemorative DVD about what you release every time that you beat us, because it means so much to you. I wish it meant so much to Wigan beating Castleford as it does for Castleford to beat us. But fair play to Castleford. Mark, ill discipline costing Wigan again, and perhaps a bit of a poor attitude. Do you think going into the game, is that something to be concerned about? Do you think?
Yeah. Well, Lamb's talked about the attitude thing. I mean, not being at the game, it's hard to judge from just the one camera stuff that we've been able to see since entirely about that. But the penalty stuff was shocking. But it was also that it seems like for the entire first half, we didn't even try to create anything. I know we scored a try in the middle with a barge over, but that's the thing that I didn't like from watching the game back and listening to it on the radio, is we didn't seem to try anything at all to actually try and score in the first half.
Absolutely. Where do you stand on? We obviously brought Harry Smith into the team, and we put Harry Smith straight over to the left-hand side for that kick-in ability that he had, which I don't know how many drop goals he managed to get through on produce for Wigan on Friday night. But moving Jackson Hastings then over to that right-hand side, are we chopping and changing the team too much too early in the season, Stu?
Well, we don't know, do we? You know. It's one of them things, Sean. You know, we're only come Thursday night, the third game in. So, but as you say, you've got to stick with your, well, the same thing as your time. It's like you say, change your team, different things. But I think they should at least stick with the same pattern till come whole game. And then if it doesn't go after that, then tune the engine, as you say, little tweaks here and again. Because, as you say, doing that, as you've just said, we're not going to know. So I think we should at least have kept it till the whole game, and then after the whole game, then done a few tweaks with the engine, you know. So
we're chopping and changing the team. We'll talk about the Toronto game coming into later in the show. But you know, third game in, it looks like we're going to have more changes to the spine of the team again. Obviously, a lot of this comes off the back of Sam Powell's injury, which he sustained in Chris Powell's high tackle. Mark, are you concerned that we still don't have? This is Lamb's second season, and do we know what Lamb's best team is? Do we know what his best halfback partnership is? Do we know what his best spine of the team is? And does Adrian Lamb even know that?
I think we know what it is. I think it's just he's not been able to have it out there for more than 22 minutes against a very good Warrington side, or however long it was. I think that's what his first choice is.
Yeah.
Other than Gildart in the other centre position, I think that was his first choice backs, first choice hooker. Obviously, Flower would come into the reckoning, I suppose, in the pack. Otherwise, it was his first choice side, Gildart and Flower aside. So I think we do know. I think what I don't know is why didn't our halfbacks bother to pass the ball to each other at any point during the first half of this game as well? Like, I don't care what side you play them on. I think it's a good idea to put the youngster on the side he's more comfortable on. But, you know, he might be a bit more comfortable as well if Jackson Hastings gets next to him to pass him the ball or receive the ball from him once or twice a match.
We do seem to have gone very much to that split again, don't we? Of right and left.
Yeah,
which...
and it's bloody boring, to be honest. It's not good to watch.
Ill discipline ultimately cost us, Hugh, in terms of 2 tries apiece, the penalty goals costing us the game. How do Wigan get that rectified come Thursday night, come tomorrow night? That's been one of our biggest downfalls over the past few years, and it just seems to crop up, and it's cost us 2 points right at the start of the season.
Well, we've just got to find a way, the Wigan way, as we say. But once we get it, we've got to stick with it. But at the minute, we're just clunking, aren't we? Maybe we say with the changes and that, like Max just said there, should be passing like the old run around. Remember the old Edwards, Andy Gregory thing at Central Park? The old run around. What Ray French used to say back in the day, like, and there's a run around. I'll be honest with you. I know it sounds important, but it's basics. Basics wins. So I think we need to bring it back.
So we'll move on. That's as much as you're getting from us, Rob. I think we all congratulated.
Well, we'll just say Castleford did everything they needed to win, didn't they? And then he can feel satisfied.
Absolutely.
They stood there for the penalties. Danny Richardson kicked them all. They did everything they needed to win.
Absolutely. And there's game management, I think, as well from Castleford. We never got in that position to have that game management, but that was, if I was a Castleford fan, that would be really refreshing to see from Richardson and Truman as 2 young halfbacks to have that game management. And hopefully hopefully Wigan can execute some of that later on in the season as we get through, get back to Wigan ways, winning ways. Right, let's move on. Got to not necessarily be careful with this topic, but I think it's important that we address the Anthony Gallion issue. I think let's talk with what we know. Why are we talking about Anthony Gallion? Well, he's a former Wigan player. He was a former man of the people, wasn't he? An eccentric character. So the news today that he's been suspended by the club pending an investigation, off-field events, and then the police have released a statement confirming that there is an investigation ongoing, which obviously looks to be tied with Anthony Gallion. Now, there's lots of rumours out there about what the nature of that may be, and I think at this moment in time we've got to respect that they are rumours, and I think all what we can do, and I've not really spoken to Mark and Stu about this, is just do something similar to what we did in regards to the Israel Folau, I keep calling him Folau incident, and it's about looking at what can we do to rise above that. Domestic violence has been cited today. Not saying that is the case, but that is what's been very much in the press. So I think all what we can do is acknowledge that it's happened, and if people want to make themselves get a better understanding or make a pledge to stand up against domestic violence, you can do that on something that I've come across quite a bit through work, which is whiteribbon.org.uk. Which is a fantastic little website to go on, and Wigan are actually tied up with White Ribbon. A few years ago, Talima Tausai, as Mark dies on screen, Talima Tausai, Willie Ice and Sean O'Loughlin fronted a campaign which was about domestic violence, and particularly domestic violence from men to women. So I think we'll just draw a line under that, if that's all right, guys, without getting in too much in conversation about it. But I'll just put that website on there, whiteribbon.org.uk. Have a look at it. There's a pledge on there which you can just sign up to, which is dead easy to do. And one of our sponsors as well, Supporting Factors, which is a women's group. Just have a look at that as well, and they're one of our fantastic sponsors as well. So I think it's important that we address that something's going on, but it doesn't affect us in terms of our day-to-day business for Wigan. But I'm sure the new rules that the Super League have brought in after the recent sort of scandals will sort that out. So let's move on from that. Toronto, Wigan versus Toronto this week. Stu, let's talk a little bit about Toronto. Your thoughts on them? When I spoke to the girls at the weekend, and we spoke about how Toronto a little bit. I think people love them or hate them. Where do you stand? Because you are very much Marmite man.
I don't like them.
You don't like them?
No.
Why?
Well, don't get me started, because don't get me wrong, they've worked, they've done the business, they've come from the lower leagues, they've worked up, and I just think that for once, for what Mr. Pearson said the other week in the press, I'm all over it there. I think he's right what he says there. And I think Mr. McDermott, well, he needs to calm himself down, doesn't he?
What is it that you don't? What do you not like about them? Now, is it the fact that they're not a British team, a European team? What is it? The fact that
I think what bites me is that we've got to, how can I put it? It's a bit like the Catalan thing in it. We've always got to go over there in numbers, right? Now they start bleating, "Oh, we can't come to you because it's expensive. It's expensive." Well, hang on, it's expensive for our fans. And I just think when you go to the ground this year, I think it's going to be a bit of game like Where's Wally? Spot the Toronto fan. I think it's going to be like that. And I think that
this is a team in the fourth season. What do you expect?
I'd rather spot 9,000 to 10,000 Torontonians watching a game in Toronto, Stu, than 4,000 people watching a game in Salford or Huddersfield or Wakefield who've had fucking 120 years to deal with this. They've got fans. They might not come to our grounds, but they've got a lot of fans. They fill their stadium way more than most of the teams in this country do.
It's splitting opinion already on comments. This is Toronto are a team that massively divide opinion, which I didn't really realise they did until the Featherstone game last year when so many people wanted Featherstone to get promoted. I mean, for me, the idea of playing Featherstone or playing Toronto, it's a no-brainer. The fact that they get, 10,000 at Lamport Stadium, Mark, and we're celebrating the fact...
No, 10,000 I think is the maximum. I think the highest they've had is about 9,800 or so last year, but they averaged last year around 8,000 plus. So... that's, a damn sight better in the Championship than any other side that's played in the Championship in the last 100 years.
And you compare that to grand finalists last weekend who were celebrating the fact that they got, just under 5,000 at a home game. I mean, I'm genuinely curious as to why people don't buy into the Toronto dream. There's lots of people on here that don't.
I get Stu's point about they don't bring away fans. We like an atmosphere in the stadium, don't we?
Yeah.
But how many times do we have an atmosphere in our stadium?
Absolutely.
Regardless of who the away team are. And certainly Huddersfield, driving 40 miles, they don't create an atmosphere.
Well, they've got a cowbell.
Wakefield, driving 60 miles, they don't create an atmosphere. So, to me, sometimes 30 Catalans fans create more of an atmosphere than some of the crowds that we have at our stadium. So I do take the point that people like an atmosphere at games. People also want to go and see every one of their team's games, don't they, Sean? And this one I do sympathise with a little bit because it is expensive, like Stu says, to be able to go and see every one of your club's games now. When one of those games is Magic Weekend, one of those games is in Catalan, one of those games in Toronto, potentially 2 games in Catalan. That does make it expensive, and I do sympathise with that aspect of things. And it's kind of why I targeted last year as a year to go to every game, because I thought it's not going to be able to happen as easily in the future.
So, is it more of a mindset and a culture change thing, Stu, that as a sport we've got to come to grips with the fact that 10, 15 years ago you could manage to do all the games within a season within the M62 corridor? Is this a byproduct of us trying to have a more successful sport by expanding it? And you perhaps
as you say, you've got to expand the sport. We know this, right? Let's get that right. But they've got to think of how can I put it? The poor people. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm off on new teams coming in Super League. Thinking that they've done right. They've set up at the bottom. They haven't come in. They haven't bought the way in. You know what I mean? Like Paris Saint-Germain done all them years ago, and they haven't done that. They've done the proper channels, fair out to them. I just think that it's a lot of expense for people to go over there. You know what I mean? When they're going to come over here.
Yeah.
But There you go. That's my mat. Everybody's got their opinion, Sean.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I mean, I think it is the mindset that we've got to change as fans and potentially as a sport to recognise that we if we want this to be a global sport, we can't go necessarily to every game. Only a few people will be able to.
How many fans in the NRL
are
able to go to every one of their team's games? How many fans and they play less games? How many fans in the NFL, and they only play 16 games, can go to every one of their team's games? It's not the norm that you can go. It's just something we've got used to.
Mm-hmm.
And for our sport to push new boundaries, I think we have to accept that modern sport supporting isn't what we've always wanted it to be, supporting this sport, unless we just want this sport to be basically a big community game, which is fine if people want that. That's fine. It's not what I want, but if people want that, that's fine.
And I think one of the things with that is you can't have both of them. You can't have Sonny Bill Williams playing for Featherstone. With all due respect to Featherstone, it's not going to happen. But you can have Sonny Bill Williams playing for Toronto Wolfpack because they've got the brand, they've got the city, they've got the infrastructure behind that to build on that. And I think there's a fine balance here between wanting the sport to stay in its roots, to stay in its community roots. I think, like you're saying, Stu, about affordability. But then I think that's really dangerous and sends to amateur sport, semi-professional sport, because that's where I think we're potentially, if we don't have the money from the likes of Catalans and Toronto trying to expand the sport. And there's some really good comments in here. It completely divides opinion. It really does. About Sky want us to build a better product, to have something that's far more attractive, and Sonny Bill Williams certainly helps that, and the brand like Toronto Wolfpack helped to do that. So I never expected it to divide opinion as much as it did, which is interesting, actually. There's lots.
I think that's a little bit naive of you as a rugby league fan of 30 years old, Sean.
Yeah.
It's a bit naive to not realise that when something happens in rugby league, there's going to be a massive lot of people unhappy about it.
But I think I view it from the way that I'm probably not understanding, like Stu's point of view there about that locality and keeping things very much. What makes rugby league the sport that we love is probably that sense of community, and I think Sharon Lill at the weekends kind of portrayed that's happening in Toronto, which was really refreshing to hear. But it's on that global scale, and I think I
know people who have been against the Toronto experience, but some of them are still going to the game in Toronto this year. Some of them we might have already talked about on the show, but once you get to know some of the Toronto fans, the ones that live over here, like Rob and Kaz, who have that flag that goes everywhere, everyone else knows those guys. Sandy, who is a Torontonian but lives over here now, so she goes to all the games. She's a pretty famous fan, and considering she's only been following the sport for 3 years, over there you've got people like contributors to my show, like Genghis and Martin, and then you've got and Lil, you've got Nicholas, you've got all these people that quite, and then the Wolfpack Pack guys, and loads of people actually. And when you talk to them, they just feel they are like us. And they are like us.
And they're bringing that North American sense of how to do a spectacle and how to promote the sport into our game, which, but yeah, I think we could. There's an interesting comment on here from Daniel, which says it'd be interesting to know if there's a divide between the views of young people and senior supporters, and I think there will be. And Stu, I'm very much categorising you as in the senior category here, because I think more senior fans, Stu,
not that much older than me, to be fair,
will have this. We'll have the view that you have, and I think. Yeah. Younger people, younger than me, will have that sense of excitement of the brand, of the marketing, of the Americanization. I think that's what a lot of people don't like. I might be wrong. Who knows? There's an interesting comment here as well from Martin, which I think whenever there's expansion of rugby league, Cumbria always comes into it. Stu as a proud...
Correct.
Right, okay, as a proud Cumbrian.
Stu...
I wasn't going to mention that, Sean, but I knew Mike Joe would.
Stu, can you tell me the average attendance of each of the 3 Cumbrian clubs put together last season?
Mark, it's that dismal. I wouldn't want to embarrass yourself.
Can you tell me what the highest crowd was for a derby last year between Workington and Whitehaven?
But it was
1,100 maybe.
That exactly, Mark.
That's
exactly.
terrible, isn't it?
I know.
How's that going to pay for a sports franchise? That many fans. There's great grassroots. There's great people loving the game over there, but more people go and watch Wigan from Cumbria than go and watch bloody Cumbrian teams at the moment.
Why? Exactly. I've harped on for the last 6 months as lads would be. I've said, let's get a bus on, and the amount of lads. Honest to God, we could probably put two coaches on from up here. Yeah, same with the Saints fans, your Leeds fans, and it's embarrassing there because. It's a good hobby to be. There's
a love for the sport, isn't there? But it doesn't mean that it should have a Super League side in the region.
Exactly, I agree with you.
That's what always surprises me about Cumbria is the amount of stews that are there, the amount of Wigan fans that are there, the amount of Saints fans, like you've said, and the amount of people that come down, like you, Stu, because it's not an easy drive to be doing that and following Wigan. But I think Cumbria is a massive issue, but the fact that Workington, Whitehaven, and Barrow, you can't get all three. None of them want to merge, so you're never going. Yeah, exactly. And if they could set their rivalries aside, and that's unfair for us to ask of that because we wouldn't merge with Saints. So it's unfair to say that, but that really is probably the only way that it would ever work. But I think that always comes into the equation whenever you talk about rugby league expansion, doesn't it?
Always does, and I agree with you. You know what I mean? But it's one of them things. As you said,
I think any investment in Cumbria needs to be support from the RFL for the grassroots game up there and making sure that we don't lose kids from that region at that age, and then those kids when they move away from that region, because let's face it, that's what happens a lot in Cumbria. Younger people will move away to find work or go to universities or what have you. Then we don't lose those people from the game at that point, and those sorts of things are where the investment needs to be in the game in Cumbria, not thinking about having a Super League team there instead of having one in Toronto, because there's just no money for that.
Okay, let's move on from Cumbria. So the game tomorrow night, Wigan versus Toronto. Changes to the squad for Wigan. There'll be a lot probably said about Toronto's squad. The fact that they can't name the right amount of people that they need to name, and the fact that they got dispensation today. Was it, Mark, for 2 under 21s players who have to be Canadian?
Effectively, that's what they've been told. One of them's going to be Quinn Nguati, who played there when they were in League One. So he's got a bit of stuff behind him. I don't know if there is another one that even exists, unfortunately, at the moment. That is another criticism people have of Toronto, is they're not making their own players. And to be honest, that's fair to an extent, but also fair for the Toronto people the club to say we're at a disadvantage because you've let us into the competition, but you haven't given us any. There's no pathway here, but we're not getting any dispensation for that when you've let us in. Yeah, sort of thing.
And the RFL. I think the comparison's made quite a lot to Melbourne Storm. The thing was, it last year or the year before, where Melbourne, it was the first time that a Melbourne-produced player had actually got through to the Melbourne first team after however many years.
Mahe Fanua was the first one, wasn't he, about 10 years ago? But yeah, there's not been many since him, has there?
And that's a very successful NRL side that we're talking about. So, the levels of expectations have got to be real there as well, haven't they? So, okay. Toronto at home tomorrow night. Wigan making changes to the squad for tomorrow. Bullock and Burrow in. Stu, how do you expect Wigan to sort of go about tomorrow night, and what changes do you expect to see to the team?
I think Burrow will be on the bench. Obviously Tommy's going to be at 9. You would have thought, wouldn't you? I would stick French at halves tomorrow. Put Sack back at thing. Bring Hankinson in, what's to lose? At the end of the day, if he's cheap and changing positions, why not?
Is Hankinson in the 21 man?
I don't know, Mark, is he? I don't know, is he? I don't know. I was
going to say an interchange would be what we'll lose then, but yeah.
But definitely, as for Marshall, keep him in. The old roof around beard, definitely. That look. I think that's what's done it there.
I think it's getting a bit more Jeff from Biker Grove each week, actually.
Jeff from Biker Grove, he can back there, lad. Bloody hell.
Joe Bullock in the squad, does he deserve his chance? And at the expense of who? Tony Clubb?
Yeah.
Is Tony? Yeah. Where do we stand on Tony Clubb, Mark? Tony Clubb seems to be plagued by injuries at the moment because he's doing 10 minutes a game.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah, we're not getting an explanation, are we? Really? It's never in the.
Are we settling for that
injury update or whatever?
You know, do we just think, that's Tony Club now? He's a 10-minute prop, but is he doing enough in 10 minutes to justify being?
I think the challenge is for one of our reporters or something that goes down to these games, Phil or someone great like that, to ask these questions about Tony Club, because I haven't seen them being answered, and like you say, it's a bit of a concern. But as good as young Havard's been so far this season, I think we need to take him out of the line, and against a side that are as potentially as grubby as we know Toronto can be. We need to be careful, because these young kids, I know people like Isa and Farrell give away the more than their fair share of penalties, but they play 80 minutes and are involved in 80 impacts in terms, or 60 impacts in that time, in terms of 40 tackles and 20 carries or whatever. They work hard, those two. For these younger props, I think we've got to manage them a bit better, because they are starting to get drawn into the penalty side of things, and Havard and to a bit of an extent Byrne, and certainly we know Partington's got it in him, but that's kind of his game, so that's a bit of a different story. I think Havard maybe needs a step away, even though he's been fantastic. I've been really impressed in like 75% of each of his stint on the field. It's just those penalties crept in too much, I think, at the weekend.
And Bullock for you, are you bringing Bullock in?
Yeah, but I think Bullock and Clark need to go.
Yeah,
I just think we need to see if they can change it up. They might be the people carrying the ball on the front foot in the forward pack that we hope George Burgess would be, but he's obviously injured. And if that was kind of the pattern of play we wanted to go by, why on earth hasn't one of those two come in when he's gone out? It doesn't make sense to me.
Just to answer your question, Hankinson is in the squad, so we wouldn't lose an interchange if Hankinson was picked. Mitch Clark's in there as well, like you said, and Amir Burrow obviously coming in. Mark, would you play Burrow off the bench and replace, pretty much do the role that Shorrocks did last week?
Yeah, I would have had him on the bench last week. I would have had him in the squad last week ahead of Shorrocks. When you watch the reserves games, Burrow's impressed. I know it's not been at the top level yet, but I think he deserves his shot. Absolutely. I think he's a guy who potentially offers a little bit more strike and threat for himself. Again, player who maybe needs to watch his discipline a little bit at this stage of his career, but feisty young kid who definitely deserves his shot. What do you think?
The word that you're looking for is another grub, which is which I'm really excited about, because he's very much, I think, in the Smithies, Partington, McAlore and Bateman type mould. He's going to be a player that opposition players and fans absolutely hate, but he'll be a fantastic player for Wigan, and I think he's a player that Wigan fans will really, really get behind. In terms of the squad, for me, I think we've got to keep Zach at centre. I don't think he's done anything wrong at centre. I think Bevan French at fullback. I think Lamb, that's where Lamb has obviously gone in pre-season, and we can't change that after 2 games, I don't think. And I think this is a good opportunity to see French, like the French that we saw in glimpses against Warrington. And we need to see Clark in the squad this week, in the team this week, and we need to see Bullock in the team this week, mainly because I think we need form for that whole game next week, because we're really going to struggle if our pack isn't big enough. And I completely agree with what you say, Mark, about Havard. I kind of wish that we would have taken Havard out of the equation last week and then brought him back in this week. I think building him up in the kind of home games where there's not as much pressure against a Toronto or Hull KR, with all respect to them at home, as there is at Castleford, because you need players. Mitch Clark, why he didn't play at Castleford when he dominated us forecasts there last year. So yeah, I would very much go with a team that sees Clark come in and Bullock come in, Club go out. I would take Havard out and Shorrocks obviously out and Burrow in on the bench, and I'll keep everything else the same and hopefully get a bit of consistency. My question...
Can I ask you about...
Go on, Mark.
Can I ask you about the Hardaker and French situation then? Do you think there's no... I don't understand why at no point in any of the games has the... Well, there was a set, wasn't there, where Zach went to fullback when French was blowing a bit in that first game, but surely there must be scope for them to swap for periods if, like, we think it needs to happen. There was a time in the Cas game where it looked like Zach wanted to get involved at that point of the game and just probably felt like he couldn't and sort of wanted to get around the ruck, and then you could see him pulling himself away almost, thinking, no, that's not my position. And if he'd have just had a word with French and said, let me play this set, and French go and stood out in the right centre whilst Hardaker played the set at full, but I don't think that would be a problem. I think we need to let that happen a little bit. Be fluid there with that.
Yeah, I agree. And Rob is a Cas fan saying that there Hardaker just didn't see enough of the ball at centre, and that's always the concern I think for both French and Hardaker is we want both of them on the ball, but how do you manage to do that? Yeah. And I think that's got to be we've got to bring the switcheroo version 2 back, but getting French to defend at centre. The switcher 2, I like it. But
we'll be proud of that one, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. But getting French to defend at fullback concerns me a little bit, particularly against maybe the likes of the Josh Griffins of this world would be interesting. But I don't know.
Go away. No, that was near you two. Shannon just walked in the bedroom giving Jeep. Go away.
Question for you. Well, not a question, but a concern for you two. And Stu, we'll start with you. This game for me, I've put in the 18th man column of Wigan Post is. I think this is potentially Adrian Lamb's most important game since he came in charge. Which sounds hold it, because this is his team now. This is a team that played with ill discipline last week. It's a team that was off the boil last week. It's a team that is we have to beat Toronto, but we have to beat them well in order to get some consistency and to get some form going into the whole game. Is there are you concerned, Stu, about potential banana skin? Because this game really, really concerns me.
Yeah, there's a little bit there in there. It could be very over complacent against these guys. Look at the Salford result. There wasn't much in that. So this could be a potential banana skin, but we should win, and we should win comfortable. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, me myself, and no doubt you two guys, count ourselves as a top 5 team. Well, if we are not on the early doors in the season, but if we are a top 5 team, we've got to put what we did till OKR last year, Wakefield last year. We've got to put at least 20 points on that board. Let's get some points back. Because as you say, it all counts into the season.
So we've got to... for me, Mark, it's not just we need a win, but we need a big win, we need a good win, and we need a silky performance, and we need to concede 0 points. Am I asking too much?
You're a Wigan fan. You're asking what we want every week, aren't you? And for saying it's to lose, don't forget. I don't agree with you that it's his biggest game in charge. I think that was Hull KR away last year after the Magic Weekend. Was his biggest game in charge so far, and I don't think this comes in scale with that. We've beaten Warrington, who everyone's crowning as the greatest team in the world after what they did to St Helens last Thursday night. So, let's. I think you're getting a bit hyperbolic there, Sean. But at the same time, it's still important. And I think we're going to win by say 3 scores. I think we're going to win by 18. I think
it's not just the win though. It's got to be the nature of that win leading up to the whole game though. Do you not think we need to see a performance that shows what Adrian Lamb? He's sold us a promise. He's sold us this attacking rugby. He's sold us this flair, I think. Or maybe I'm just the only person.
We need to see a bit more. We need to see more what Hull KR did against Hull. Really,
absolutely.
That's the way we're going to get a chance of beating Hull, is throwing the ball wide but not making mistakes. And it's not an easy thing to do. And this is an opportunity to practice it against a side that I don't think are one of the strongest sides in the Super League, whereas we should be like Stu says. So I completely agree with 5 side.
Yeah,
we're winning this game, and I think we're winning it. And I don't think any of us. I'm not sure if I'll make the game yet tomorrow, but I'm not sure any of us should be going into that stadium feeling apprehensive about this game. Let's not put that sort of pressure onto people. Let's just go in there excited that we might actually finally see what we want to see.
Stu, thoughts on tomorrow? How do you, what score are you getting at?
I would like to say 26 margin, but putting a sensible head on. I would go for, as Mark says, 3 scores. You know what I mean? Anything more than that would be brilliant. You're some of your Wigan fan that wouldn't agree with that. But let's just say there's a little general on their team called a certain John Wilkin, and he's going to be, like a little grub in here as he is. So he's going to be able to prove a point, isn't he?
I'm really looking forward to that, actually, that niggliness of John Wilkin and the rest of them, and Morgan Smithers against John Wilkin, I think will be really interesting.
Exactly. Like the paper stand back. Yeah, exactly.
Mark, your score prediction for tomorrow?
Let's go 26-8.
Okay, I'm going 34-0. And I won't be satisfied with anything less. I think defensively we've got to massively improve from giving penalties away. I think there's a real opportunity to do that against a team that, a team with the likes of Mellor and Russell and O'Brien. We're not talking. This isn't Blake Austin, with all due respect to them. This is a team that we need to be dominating defensively, and it's a team that we need to be dominating. Our forwards need to dominate. And again, with that whole game in mind, because that'll be a real benchmark to test where Wigan actually are so far. And Spencer's close there. Wigan 41, Wolfdog 6. It needs to be one of those games that I always refer to, that we normally get to in sort of July, August time. One of those games where we get about 9,000 on, but it's on telly, and we just run away with it. It's just a nice, pleasurable watch. But the weather may play a part, I think, tomorrow in that.
Sorry for interrupting. Who's the referee?
It's Mr. Kendall.
Irrelevant.
Mr. Kendall. Mr. Kendall.
Mr. Kendall. All right, okay. Then.
I'm with Mark though. I think it's irrelevant nowadays. I don't. Why do you ask you? Do you buy into the sort of refereeing influence of games like that?
I do when he ticks. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a big fan of him or Child, but the other ones, I
wouldn't disagree with Stu that sometimes some of the referees are more inconsistent than others, and that inconsistency can have an impact on the matches and the results. But we still control whether we're on the right side of that or not.
Yeah.
They don't pick which side they want to win. They just might
of course they do.
Sometimes pick which penalties they want to give and which ones they don't, and vice versa.
Seen in Ladbrokes, man, putting a bet on. I wear Mark. You know what I like. Come on.
It's just how much Stu wants to know, because he wants to know if his enjoyment's going to be ruined by not knowing whether Robert Hicks is going to blow for a penalty or not every different decision.
Right, gents, thank you very much for taking the time to join me. Mark, especially battling coronavirus there in quarantine in Super League Pod HQ. I assume that you battled your way through the podcast this week.
Yeah, we did a show. It was hard, especially because I thought the edit would capture the parts where I muted my microphone when I was coughing, and it turned out it didn't. So I had to do this whole second edit where I split anyway, boring stuff, but it was a tough edit. But there wasn't much on the show really. Lots to talk about Hull FC's win, and lots to talk about Warrington's win. So yeah, not one for Wigan fans, but next week's will, because we'll be talking about a Wigan win.
Absolutely. Stu, thank you as always for taking the time out of your busy schedule and fighting your fan base off as they come to interrupt you in the bedroom. Thanks everybody for watching us, and we'll be back next week after a Wigan victory and previewing Wigan versus Hull FC. Thanks for watching us. See you next week.
See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Do you know if my coughing mute?